Who said this was one of their favorite pictures? Nice. You know a little bit about its history?
Not enough to say much.
No? Okay, sorry.
Bum in your face, sorry.
I know the analysis of it.
Oh. Okay. Good? Okay, so we've been talking about Rhetoric and the relationship between the three levels of iconology, which it produces a way of interpreting visual text. So I want to do a little bit of standard interpretation with this text. And then I see the wedding portrait. I personally think this painting is amazing. The deeper you get into it, the more impressive it becomes. So we can talk about it for the next 3 minutes. Okay, now, who knows what this painting is? Who knows something about its background? Nobody wants to say it. Come on.
It's a Giovanni, I can't say his last name, and his wife. Wedding day.
Arnolfini.
Our new wedding. Yes.
Good. It's a wedding picture. Not like one that we would see today, but.
I totally got that, but in our readings, it talks about how it's, what I found kind of unusual is it's in the sense of how she already be pregnant if they just are getting married now, because it goes against every picture. Then it's saying that she was just pulling out her dress, which is like something you would do, but it doesn't, so I'm just curious what you think.
Okay.
I was so close that that's just pregnant.
Okay. Okay. Good.
And it's hard when you go around her hand, but it's definitely so like if she's putting on a line with her hands and very, very demon-like.
Okay, so what's going on here? If we all got this up on our screens, it might be a good idea to see if we can find one on the internet that's bigger so that you can zoom in a little more. Okay, what's going on here is A, it's a wedding portrait that doesn't look anything like a wedding portrait we would see today. B, the main sort of question around meaning in this painting is always, is she pregnant? You're so judgmental. Okay. Maybe she is, maybe she's not. Take a really close look at her hand and her torso and her dress.
No, she's pulling it up.
Okay.
But if you look behind, if you have to zoom in, she's holding fabric. It's like, it's behind her hand.
Yep.
Does anybody else notice that the guy looks like Putin?
Helpful.
They're very wealthy.
Sorry?
They're very wealthy.
How do you know?
Well, they've had a painting commissioned of them, the clothes they're wearing, the room they're in. They have a dog. Their skin is very light.
Good.
Chandelier.
Nice. Did everybody hear that? Okay. One of the things we need to do in the first level of interpretation is just figure out what we're seeing. I think it's absolutely right to say that these people are enormously wealthy. A full-length oil painting of this form is probably going to cost you, back in the days, about as much as a house does now. Cool. This is incredibly expensive. It's like the Lamborghini of visual art. Right? Oil painting is extremely exclusive in the 15th century.
The one candle's lit on the...
Very nice. So?
in the readings it refers to it as all-seeing Christ.
Oh, the readings. Good. Okay. I want to deal with a couple of things. Go ahead.
Also in the mirror, you can also do a reflection of the quality.
Good. We'll talk about that in a bit too. Good. Okay, so you guys are looking very closely at what's actually in the picture. And that's the first level, so that's exactly right. It's what you're supposed to be doing. Okay, one of the things we might really start arguing here is wealth, right? Because the question of whether or not she's pregnant directly relates to how much clothing she's wearing. And the fact that she's wearing this crazy dress, look at the way it pools on the floor. It's way longer than it needs to be. Why does anybody wear a dress like that? To show how much fabric they can afford, right?
Also, the color of the fabric. The color of the fabric at the time was more expensive to get certain colors as well.
Absolutely.
So that the fact that her family could afford that and the length that it is shows that it is a wealth and a higher class.
Absolutely, yeah. The color of the fabric and the way that it's designed. Think about the amount of money that goes into the fur lining of that, right?
I've never had children before, but I couldn't imagine having to stand there holding heavy fabric for an extended period of time, and wearing really heavy fabric. So I don't think she's holding fabric. I genuinely think she's pregnant. Because who would just stand there and hold fabric for hours and hours? She probably just has her hand on her belly because the baby's sleeping.
Okay, so here's a way of thinking through that from the opposite perspective, okay? If you get your painting done in this time period in this way, you pose for the face, maybe the hands, and then somebody else poses for the clothes. You hire somebody to stand there and hold the fabric.
Are you serious?
Yeah, sure.
Wouldn't you?
I think that she's pregnant because of the shoes on the ground, because I don't think that because of their wealth, they're just going to have shoes lying around the house. I think she might have taken them off for comfort.
Good. Okay, I think she took them off for some reason anyway.
Yeah.
Good.
Did I take saying the reading that the shoes were on the floor because they wanted to represent this sanctity of the place where they were, like the services or something? Is that what the wedding?
Good. Hold on to that for a second. Yeah.
I also think that she's pregnant because, like, usually, I know she's holding the fabric there, but usually that hand position at that point on the abdomen is like a pretty universal symbol for pregnancy.
Okay.
Maybe she's trying to hide that.
Okay. Now, I think this is going in the right direction. Here's what I want to ask you. Why is she wearing green?
Fertility.
Sorry?
Yeah, I was going to say money, but
Okay, I don't think money's green in the 14 minutes. Not a cultural universal.
Fertility.
Fertility.
She's still green.
Sorry?
She's green.
She is green. Like,
vitality.
good. Vitality, the ability to produce or reproduce. All right, good. Now, so what we're doing there, as soon as we start talking about that, is moving from primary to secondary levels of interpretation, right? Right? Good. Can we do more with this? If she's green and therefore fertile like a field, what else can we do with this? Or we can assume that regardless of whether she's pregnant or not, the whole structure of the way she's standing and the kind of question around pregnancy is meant to indicate her ability to get pregnant at the very least. Whether or not she's actually pregnant, this indicates her fertility and therefore maybe her role in the marriage. Does that make sense? Once we talk about what her role in the marriage and kind of social obligations are, we're doing the third level, right? Now we're starting to talk not so much about what the symbolism in the painting is, more about what the cultural constructs that build the society around the painting means. Clear? Good. Yeah?
This is kind of going back to the fertility thing, but there are oranges like on this table.
Nicely done. And?
Well, oranges traditionally were like fertility boosters.
Good. Are there any other oranges in this painting? Look more closely.
Yes, the windowsill and the table.
And?
The bed.
No. On the tree outside the window.
That's very
All right, good. Okay, now, here's what we're going to do, all right? We're going to look at the structure of this painting. We said with the gleaners, there's the fact that those women were in front, that their clothes were related somehow to the colors of the French flag, that the kind of movement of agricultural production was reversed in the framing of the image. All of that meant something. Do that here. Does this painting divide into sections?
It's more focused on her, maybe because she's wearing bright clothing.
Is it broken somehow? Is it broke? Is the space broken up? I think that's true. How?
The alignment is very, like, I don't know how to explain it, but there's like something happening in every like section of the painting. Like you see the mirror, and then you see the bed, and then you go to the window, and the tree, and you go to the bottom of the painting to the dog, and then kind of like different things happening in it.
Absolutely.
I think that it's important that their hands are in the middle of the picture because that's immediately where your glance goes when first looking at it.
That's, we might argue, the exact focus of the entire painting, right? That's the center. And in fact, that's kind of the light part in an otherwise relatively dark area of the painting. Everything focuses on those hands. It's a really good one.
Kind of, everything kind of leads to the bed, and I don't mean that, but like she's kind of, and her shadow's like pointing at it.
Good.
So.
Okay. Hold on to that for 1 second. It's absolutely the case, I think. Yeah. Right?
Narcissus spend close to the daughter. It's
Yeah.
like a rose in the country.
Good.
And also the man who spend close to the window with the light. It's like she will go out, walk outside, and she stays home to enjoy.
Nicely done. Yes. Okay. So this painting, the really basic point I wanted to make clear was that this painting splits down the center vertically. There are two sides to it, right? We could fold it like a Hallmark gift card. Don't do that. Does that make sense? Okay, good. There's a man's side and a woman's side, isn't it? Good. Okay. Now let's do all this stuff about beds and orchards and whatever else. Are the two sides indicative of gender roles in this society? Because go ahead.
The man appears as powerful and detached and kind of just non-emotional almost. He has no expression. He looks very much like he's in charge.
Good. He's got his hand up.
He's got his hand up.
Giving her some
No.
sort of orders or something.
No.
Well, I mean, I don't know about no. It's a wedding.
Yeah.
But he does seem like he's he's kind of mansplaining.
Well, I would just say that her hand is open and receiving too. Like her hand's facing up.
Good.
Whereas this is sort of like that.
Good. Look at the hands at the very center of the painting. Do a little bit more with that.
They're open.
Good. Who's holding whose hand?
He's holding her.
He's holding
Good. Her
her.
hand is open to receive, and he's holding hers in a gesture of control or ownership.
Christ is kind of on his side.
Good. Say that louder.
The light of Christ is on his side of the painting, so it's almost like Christ leads his actions, he leads his wife's actions, sort of thing.
Good. Has anybody ever read Paradise Lost?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay. So he forgot alone and she forgot in him. So the way that the kind of relationships between genders is meant to work in there as well. Okay, there were a whole bunch of hands here that were patiently being held up. So I thought I saw something back.
I guess back then the woman's place would have been in the home and she's closer to the bed, and man's place is more out in the public sphere and he has more influence in the external world and he's closer to the window.
Good. Yeah, absolutely. We carry on with that.
I was going to say.
Say that.
Oh, I have a different point. Oh, okay. Kind of adding to the biblical references, if you look in here, you can't really see it there, but if you expand it, it's like the mirror itself has little pictures of the Passion of Christ. Is that correct? I don't know anything about the Bible, so. But, and it also refers to like how, like the circle of his life, I guess, reflects their life too.
Good. Really nicely done. We're going to do a whole bunch more with the mirror in a minute. That was great.
I just along with that biblical sense, I see the formation of almost a chalice between the two of them spatially.
Yeah.
You see
I noticed that.
the stem and then the little kind of forming the chalice.
Really nice. Way to read negative space. That was really good. Yeah.
I was going to ask if there was any significance to the oranges all being on his side.
Year-old man.
Well, I just, yeah, like, basically it's almost like he can give her that to make their children. And they're asking Christ if they can right now.
Okay, good. We might even
I was going to say, I don't know, for me it's almost leading, now noticing that there's a tree on the outside, and then they start becoming more inside as it rolls down, and if you follow that as a U, you're also seeing her revealing part of herself with the way she's holding the dress, and then it goes into the bed. Like it's a big sort of tight U.
Just a quick comment, and I don't think this is appropriate, but the oranges kind of look like male genitalia.
Okay, so I don't think that's inappropriate at all. I will just repeat that this is a space of intellectual engagement. Okay. Now, if it's the case that the oranges the oranges are representing masculinity somehow, and that they're coming in from the orchard into the house, across the painting in that sort of sweeping U motion, can we say something about a man's role in a marriage according to this painting?
To make a woman.
He goes forth and multiplies. He plants his seed. She's like a garden that he tends. Why she's wearing green? Because she's fertile and he's a gardener. Really always thinks the 14th century was so clean. Okay. I think this is a really important way of looking at this painting, right? It's about a vertical division between a man's role in a marriage and a woman's role in a marriage according to the social constructs of the society that built it. That's the third level of interpretation. What we're getting to here now is, what does this society think about gender roles? What does this society say is the purpose of marriage?
To procreate.
To procreate. To produce this kind of a power relationship. To produce this kind of a social relationship. Does that make sense? Good. Look at a little bit more closely at the woman's side. You're right to say that the bed is her domain. Look at the wall behind them. Is there stuff on the wall? Okay, leave the writing alone for a second. We'll come back to that. Look at the things hanging on the wall, apart from the mirror. There's stuff on either side of the mirror.
Well, there's like some sort of broom on her side.
And on his side is some kind of prayer beads. Nice. So he gets religion and she gets a broom.
And also, if you notice right behind her, there's a carpet sort of for comfort as well.
Good. Good. Here's one other thing to say about that.
Well, I mean, if they're really that wealthy, she wouldn't actually be keeping up that room.
No.
Why?
So it's symbolic. Good. Okay, here's one other thing to say. That rug, an oriental rug, probably a Turkish rug, comes from somewhere in the Middle East. Okay? You probably have to go to Constantinople or Istanbul to get it. Possibly you have to go farther to the bank, right? You need a ship or access to a ship. You need the money to send a ship to get it. That rug is something that we will see again and again in the history of late medieval and early modern Western art, and it indicates absolutely incredible opulence. To own an oriental rug like that is to own a Ferrari today. It's possibly the most expensive thing in that house. It's incredibly rich.
I would say so are the oranges.
Yeah, I would too. I mean, they have an orchard of them, right? There's a tree. But getting that tree is remarkable.
I mean, obviously, I can't tell. But I don't know that orange trees would be able to grow outside in the Netherlands, so I don't know if that is an orange tree, especially at that height.
Cherry tree?
No, but it looks orange.
Okay. Well, okay. So what we've done here is kind of deal with the fruit, right? And the relationship symbolically of what that fruit is. Once we start looking at what the fruit really is, we're kind of back to the first level, but I think it's very important to figure that out at some point. So I think it's a really good call. One other thing I will say is that fruit actually is really important in Western Ireland, right? Has anybody ever been to like an English country house? Traveled around England and seen those like huge mahogany or oak staircases that come down through like into the grand dining rooms or whatever? Mm-hmm. And on the ends of the banisters or balustrades are pineapples.
Pineapple means welcome.
Right, that's right. Also, the ability to get a pineapple in like the 17th or 18th century demonstrated how much wealth you had, because it was incredibly exotic to be able to serve. Makes sense? Okay, so fruit is an important marker of prestige. So it does matter what kind of fruit it is.
Why is there a dog in the fruit cake?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I don't know why. Because it's a happy family. Okay, here's that actually leads really nicely into the next part. We've divided this painting into two sections down a vertical line, right? And we've said that that indicates gender roles. And at the point where those two pieces meet, we have the two hands joining, so that it's the kind of masculine and feminine elements of the painting that come together in the marriage, right? Now let's divide it up vertically. There's a whole series of objects that run up this painting from the bottom to the top, and they mean something. So, that's an excellent question to start with. Why is there a dog in this painting?
Represents loyalty or lust.
Good for you. I don't know, I hadn't really thought about lust, but I think that probably makes sense.
To have a child.
Sure. Okay, good. What's the most common name for a dog? Fido. Oh, all right. We call dogs Fido all the time, still, right? What does the word Fido mean in Latin? Loyalty. Is that an element of marriage? Good. Yes, it is. Or fidelity. Or that's how you conjugate it, but Fido is it. The name Fido for dogs comes from the Latin root. Okay, good. What else is on that center line?
A single candle.
For shoes in the bathroom.
Good. Okay, we've got shoes, and we've got this really rich Turkish rug. What else is important in a marriage?
There's more shoes too. There's more shoes in the back.
There's all kinds of shoes. Okay. We might want to talk about the two pairs of shoes because they've taken their shoes off for this moment.
But they both. Does that have religious? Is that rooted in religion? Because I know, like, in some.
How could it be rooted in religion?
Well, in some religions, they wash each other's feet when they're born.
Okay.
But they're not Muslim.
They're not Muslim. No. This is a Christian marriage.
Yeah.
So, is there a Christian precedent for taking your shoes off on holy ground? What would it be? Not so much holy ground, but.
That space is sacred, and they're portraying their family and what is yet to come. So it is kind of a sacred moment.
Good. There's actually an Old Testament bit where when Moses goes up the mountain and sees the burning bush, the first thing that God says to him is, take off your shoes, because the ground upon which you tread is holy. Right? That's also one of the reasons that you're supposed to take your shoes off before you go into a mosque. Or temple. Okay.
And Christ had his shoes taken off and his feet washed.
Christ actually washed people's feet. That's why the focus of it. But yeah, that's a good marker as well. Okay, I will say that if this is the Netherlands, the question of what their religious affiliations are would depend on the year it's painted and where they're situated socially, right? Are they Protestants? Are they Catholics?
I have a question. His name is Giovanni, so
Okay.
I suspect that would be Italian. So why is he in the Netherlands? Doesn't he in Italy?
It depends on where he is, right? I mean, his last name is Arnolfini. But people moved around Europe a lot more than you would think they did. So that's something to bear in mind. The concept of what a nation state was in European identity didn't really get set until the Treaty of Westphalia. And that's like late 1600s, after the Wars of Religion. So, for instance, the Netherlands are, at this point, more closely aligned with Spain than they are with, say, France or Germany. Okay, that's a good question. Now, if we move up the line here, we end up with loyalty, recognition of the sacred, and we have white shoes versus red shoes, which might also mean something. And then the next thing up is soft furnishings. And then their hands, right at the center, where their bodies join. Right? And then what's at the very top? This single candle. Single candle representing
unity. Unity?
Representing Christ. This is a very religious painting. Right? The one candle is representing the role of religion in their marriage. Just for the sake of clarity, if you see one candle in a high Renaissance or early modern European painting, it almost always indicates religion.
I'm confused. Are there two beds?
There's a bed and a coat.
Okay.
Okay, so you were saying about where the candle is?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to say that again?
The candle is more on his side, so he's receiving the light of Christ and then sort of giving it to her through instruction or through whatever. Yeah, like it's he's receiving it. It's a patriarchal.
Patriarchal.
Yeah. Type of system.
Absolutely.
Like all the red is on her side, so maybe it's saying that she's sinning or she.
Looks like she has horns.
Two more. Why is all the red on her side?
It's because she could be pregnant before they're married, and that's a sin.
Okay. Or it might be that red. What does red indicate? Lust. Anything else? Love. Anything else?
Evil.
Possibly evil.
Power.
I was thinking it might have to do with the red. Might have to do with the concept of original sin in the Bible.
I was just going to say that.
Nicely done. Okay. Here's one more thing I think we should be aware of. Nobody who saw this painting when it was painted would have said, "Oh, her hair looks like devil horns."
I said that.
I know. Lots of people said that, but that's us reading it. That would not be something that people would say when they saw this painting when it was painted. It's a really common hairstyle. Interestingly, women for several hundred years around this time waxed their foreheads to produce a higher forehead.
Okay. Wait, what?
They waxed their hair back off of their forehead.
Like this?
Yeah. So if you look at sure. All right. So if you look at say portraits of Queen Elizabeth I, she looks like she's going bald. Right? And so does she. And it's because women waxed their hair back so that they could have a higher brow, because that seemed to be indicative of greater intelligence and sagacity. Okay, so does that make sense as an interpretive structure for this painting? There's a huge amount going on. Okay, now watch this. Okay, this is the mirror in the middle of the painting.
That's the marital witnesses, and they're not holding hands in the painting? Oh, yeah.
Is that true?
Yeah. I don't know. That's what I see.
I think they are.
It looks like they're holding hands right here.
Okay. So the marital witnesses.
Okay, good. Now, first of all, let's go to the top here. What does it say?
Something not in
Yeah.
He name dropped himself, kind of in the artist name dropped himself.
Absolutely. It's like tagging.
Yeah, Johannes van Eyck.
Yeah. Made this.
Yeah, made this.
Yeah.
Well, so that's his signature?
That's his signature.
Yeah. Just put it.
That's not just his signature. That's look what I made.
Yeah. Keep painting.
Yeah, basically. Okay. Now, I think we already talked about the Stations of the Cross around the outside of the mirror. Okay? Okay. What's going on in the mirror? Everybody get a picture of this on your computer screens. Okay, thanks. Oh, I'm sorry. Well, so find a version of it and just zoom in.
What's the painting called?
It's called the Arnolfini Wedding Portrait.
center is outside the painting, or is that
No, the center of the actual room. What is it? What's in it? What's going on in that? Ooh.
It's not reflective of actually what's going on there. They're not holding hands in the reflection.
They are holding hands.
She's wearing blue.
Yeah, her sleeve is blue, so it's kind of being overlapped by somebody else. Okay. Good. Okay, is there anybody else in that picture? This is the priest and the painter. That is a bit cheeky to put yourself into somebody else's portrait, isn't it?
Yeah.
He put himself not just in the portrait, in the very, very center of the portrait.
He's in love with her.
Joseph is married.
Is that weird?
Yeah.
Why would it be weird?
Well, because I might be making this up, but it looks like Mary and Joseph.
Okay. Why do you think so?
Because of the clothes.
Good. So the veil that she's wearing
yeah,
in the front.
and his clothes too.
Good. I think that's absolutely a way of thinking about this.
Wait, can you repeat what you said?
I just said it looked like Joseph and Mary.
Mary and Joseph.
Yeah, from the parents of Jesus.
I think that's absolutely a way of sort of recommending role models for marriage.